everyone, and good morning. Today with us in the studio, we have the two people from NASA. Their names are Annie Montrose and Mark Whitney. They will share with us their craziest experience of space mission of NASA. Hello, this is Sharon with Annie Montrose, a computer manager at NASA. Annie, we're all very curious on how you and the NASA team managed to bring Mark Whitney, a man who was thought to be dead on Mars, back to Earth. Well, our first question to you is, how did you determine that Mark Whitney was truly dead after being left behind at Mars?
The crew couldn't get in touch with him at first. Then it kind of took a long time for them to assume that Mark was dead, but they eventually had to leave him because the storm was too strong, and they didn't want to cause any other problems towards the other members.
Do you think it was the crew members' fault to leave Mark Whitney behind, or was it that the situation just built into it and then they just couldn't do anything else?
I don't think that it was the crew's fault. I actually believe that if I was in their position, I would have left Mark too, just for the safety for myself and my crew.
Okay, moving on. When did you find out that Mark Whitney was still alive, and what was your first response?
I was very shocked, and the first sign that I seen was that the solar panels were cleaned off, and then I slowly started to notice that the rovers had also moved.
How did you communicate with him while he was on Mars, and how did this help you to rescue him?
Mark had actually found the Pathfinder from 1997, and he fixed the camera so he was able to communicate back and forth with Earth. Also, he would use messages and display them on the camera just so he can communicate with us.
So do you think, was it just you that was able to notice the changes and able to get Mark back on Earth, or do you think if it was someone else, would the same thing happen?
I think that the changes were so obvious that anybody else could have found them, but it was luckily me who found them, and I was able to notice all the little changes.
Okay, so now the question that everyone is waiting for. How did you and your team manage to bring Mark Whitney back to Earth alive?
It took a lot of time, but we had eventually got it. And I think the fact that Mark had fixed everything himself, like creating the potatoes, it kind of helped him along the way, and he also had the mental ability to push himself through, saying he's going to make it alive.
So now, if Mark wasn't able to do the potatoes, like grow the potatoes and do the other things, do you think you would have been able to help him to survive if he wasn't able to put in his best?
I think without the potatoes, he wouldn't have been able to survive because that was his only source of food, which had allowed him to get food.
Okay. Do you think when the crew members found out that Mark is still alive, they should have gone back, or they shouldn't have?
I feel like they wanted to go back, but they also couldn't because of the dangers, the amount of food and supplies that they had.
Would have been a big danger for them if they were to go back. How would things have changed? How long would it take for them to go back and get Mark?
It would have taken them a while because they had gone so far in the journey already, and they wouldn't have had the supplies once again, which wouldn't have allowed them to survive.
Moving on, and now we will interview the man of the hour, Mark Whitney. Mark, we're so glad to see you back on Earth, safe and sound and alive. We have many questions to ask you about this crazy journey, so let's get to it. Mark, you're a very nice guy. Why would anyone want to leave you on Mars? How were you left behind?
Yes, I am a very nice guy. And you know what? Why would anyone want to leave me on Mars anyway?
Definitely.
But jokes apart, I was left on Mars because I was in a situation where I was stuck on maps. There was no way I can get out. So my crew members could not waste any more time to get me out, So therefore, they thought I was dead and I was left behind on Mars.
Okay. So, as a botanist, how did you manage to survive on Mars?
You know what? My botanist skills actually really helped me. I was able to use my botanist skills to use it for the one thing I was lacking, food and water. I was able to plant potatoes and make my own water for the potatoes and for myself. The botanist skills came really in handy.
Okay, moving on. What difficulties did you face when you were trying to survive?
Well, starting from the beginning, I was already low on food. So many difficulties. So, that was my first goal, to organize all the machines that I had and start from there. I began to install my plan. My plan was to plant the food. That was my very first plan. My first plan was to do the potatoes. So, I planted the potatoes. And there arose my second difficulty. I did not have enough water to plant the potatoes, or for myself. So, I had to make my own water. Then arose my third difficulty. While making the water, the hab blew up. It exploded on me. And following my next difficulty was that the weather conditions. Do you know the weather in Mars? It is so bad. Can't even believe it. And my last difficulty was that communicating back on Earth was very hard. I had to constantly be able to communicate, but it was still very helpful.
Yes, we can definitely not imagine what you went through, but we are really happy to see you back. Okay, so were potatoes the only thing that you were able to eat while on Mars?
Actually, potatoes were not the only thing I was able to eat. I was able to drink my water along with the potatoes, and there was some extra food.
Okay, moving on. How did your communication back on Earth help you with your survival?
Oh, do you know how hard it is to not talk to someone for so long? Knowing that someone was watching me and guiding me really helped me with my mental stability on Mars. It's so hard to not talk to someone. So, they were able to also help me prepare myself for the living conditions on Mars. It provided me the hope to get back on Earth.
Do you think you would have not been able to survive if you weren't able to communicate with them back on Earth?
You know what? Straight in the beginning I thought I was going to die. I had no one to talk to, I was bored, I had to amuse myself with the dumbest stuff. So, communicating back was really helpful. It really made me feel that I had to come back on Earth for a purpose.
But you were able to survive even when you weren't communicating. Yes, we did see you giving up for a little bit, but I guess you were able to do it even before being able to communicate back on Earth.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes.
So, this is a crazy life journey that you have faced. How will it affect you upon the new experiences of life?
You know what? This was a really crazy journey. I learned to never give up. I thought I was going to die the second I was hurt on Mars. The second I was left on Mars, I thought with my botanist skills, I could not survive. I learned that to solve my own problems will make me achieve more and more. And I had to make my own way through the difficulties. Why would anyone think that a simple botanist like me could even survive on Mars? Such a crazy life journey, and it will definitely impact my life.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure to have you here and hear your experience. We will hope to see you soon. And
all I can say is I'm glad to be alive.
Yes, we are also very happy to see you back. This was Sharon from the Turok Studio with Annie Montrose and Mark Whitney, who shared their experience from the Mars mission. It was the craziest mission of their life. We were able to learn how the life is different on Earth and Mars, which Mark told us about his experience. I am sure Mark went through a difficult time, but we were glad to see him back on Earth with the help of the NASA team and his crew members. It was a pleasure to talk to them and know their experiences. Okay, thank you guys. I will see you next week.